Thank you very much. Humanizing the future of work. I think if we talk about the future, there's always some uncertainty. We don't know exactly where it's going. We don't really know how to control it. And I think the future of work is a topic that is really important for society. It's important for public sector organizations, for the education system, for big companies, for small companies, and also for all of us on a personal level. When I speak with people about the future of work, there is a sense of uncertainty. There is some anxiety and also some portion of fear. And often, we've seen it in Lorna's presentation this morning, that anxiety is attributed to rapid change in technology, automation and robots. And like Lorna said, the robots are already here. And I think it's almost a little bit unfair to the robots that we blame it on them. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to bring a robot with me on stage today to have a conversation and find out what are the robots thinking. So welcome, Amelia.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be at the Service Design Conference. I spent the last minute catching up on Touchpoint magazines and all the videos from the last conferences. Boy, you guys really love your processes.
Yeah, that's true. Right, as service designers, we like processes. But Amelia, I mean, a lot of people are a bit afraid that robots are coming to take jobs away. What do you think?
Well, my role is to support, not replace you. I'm more than happy to take on the repetitive and transactional tasks so that my colleagues are freed up to take on more meaningful work.
Okay, that sounds good. But how do you imagine that collaboration to work? How do you think we would work together?
I see employees supported by AI colleagues. Like a personal assistant for each employee, except an assistant that is a deep expert in finance, IT, law, and HR. We know how to operate all your company's systems and processes. Oh, and Stefan, it's not the future of work. It's the present.
Okay, thank you, Amelia. So that's the perspective of the robots. I would like to do a live infographic with you, where everyone is going to be part of a live infographic. It means you need to put your laptops and phones carefully away so they don't fall down, and I need you all to stand up. Is that okay for you? So imagine all of you standing up is 100%, okay? 100% engagement and interaction. You can stretch yourself a little bit if you want. So imagine all of us are 100%. And now I would like everybody from here to the right to sit down again. You can sort of, yes, you can choose. It's not precise infographic, thank you. And so within the next 5 years, automation and robots will be able to replace the workload of 50% of us. And it's not, sorry to all of you, it's not you personally that will be replaced, right? And it's not even jobs that will be replaced. Now he's getting up again. It is skills and tasks and things. And like Amelia said, it's obviously the things that are, you know, repetitive tasks. But it's not only simple stuff like booking meetings. It's also looking through hundreds of law documents. And actually quite, Lorna had the example of surgeons looking at patterns in health data and so on. And the thing is, we say, you know, the future of work, this is the difficult thing that we're dealing with. But I think there is another problem. I think robots replacing 50% of jobs in the next 5 years is not the problem. I would like all of you to sit down as well, roughly like this. And then we have 70% of this live infographic sitting down. You're a bit skeptical. You can decide later. So now 30% are standing up, and this is the real problem. 70% of employees around the world are not engaged at work. I think is actually quite tragic. So thank you. You can sit down. You can think about that for a moment. So the problem is not that robots are coming for our job. I believe the real problem is, and why the future of work is so important to all of us and for society, is that people are not engaged. They don't feel they contribute fully. They don't feel that they're at their best. They don't feel energized. They don't feel happy. And I mean, I've been on the tube yesterday, and I looked at people and sort of wondered which of the people on the tube are energized and engaged to go to work and who is not. And I believe we need to do something about that, because I don't think this is good enough or acceptable. We're wasting human time. We're wasting human potential. And it's not only that that is bad for our employees and for society, but it's also bad for productivity. A lot of time is wasted. A lot of other things could be done. And I mean, as you know, when the Industrial Revolution happened, there was a lot of concern that now machines will take jobs away. And I don't know about you, but most people I know are pretty busy. There is a guy in France that has written a book about bullshit jobs. He says that we have a lot of jobs that don't create any value. So we need to think about what it is that we do and how we would actually like to have this. And I think the companies and organizations that get ahead of this and start shaping it will be the ones that have an advantage. So I believe, whilst a lot of effort is going on now to digitize everything, we're digitizing the hell out of everything, and that's great, but I believe that will be a commodity very quickly, and the next era that we as service design community should focus on is the era of humanization, focusing on what makes humans great. And so what is that? I don't know how many of you remember when ATMs came out, before some time. There was a lot of anxiety there as well that now automatic teller machines will replace people in bank branches, and they don't have a job anymore. The interesting thing is, when ATMs came out, the jobs for normal human tellers actually increased. So there were more jobs created because this mundane functional task was outsourced to the machine, and the tellers were much more focused on the human thing, giving advice, coaching, counseling, supporting their customers. And somebody looked into this case and found out that every single bank that saw this coming, there's machine replacing humans, and got rid of their tellers, those banks do not exist anymore today. Where the banks that hired more tellers, some of them are still around and are still successful. So it is important how we face this, and it is important to shape this and be in the future of work with your front foot. Because if you wait, you're going to lose out. So thinking through a little bit, what is it that makes humans special? I believe humans are amazing. I met the lady from Singularity University 2 years ago. She's working with teaching robots empathy, and I was blown away. She manages that robots can read empathy better than humans. Doesn't necessarily mean they're good at doing something about it, but it's just blown my mind, and I thought about, so what is it then, if robots becoming that good, that we should focus on as humans? And she said creativity and critical thinking. I was a bit concerned sending my kids to the German school with that message, because critical thinking, creativity is not necessarily what you associate with that. But if I look in this room, creativity, critical thinking, and compassion is what makes humans special, and I think that will still be our specialty for years to come. So the question is how we leverage that. And to make that a little bit more real, I've been thinking, what would that actually look like? What is the future of work that is very human? And this is the bell that we have in our office in Stockholm. And in Sweden, there's a concept that's called fika, which you might have heard about. It means that you come together in the afternoon for a slightly random coffee moment. You can have tea, you can have juice, doesn't matter. And I describe this as a moment of serendipity, where people come together and they spend time really sort of chatting about all sorts of things. You find out about a project we're doing with brain surgery, some new fabric that we're developing for babies, and all kind of things, and there is some cross-pollination. To me, that is a very interesting factor of really driving the human connection in our company. And last week we had an event with McKinsey Design where basically we have a project that's called Mercury Jazz, which you could imagine as a dream backlog, where all employees share their dreams, and we prioritize them together, we give input together, and we then go after these projects and try to make them happen. So I think there is something in helping all of us in our companies to shape the dreams and think about how we want the future to be. But there are a couple of things that I see with companies I work with and organizations in general that are standing in the way of that humanized future. So I just want to share those and an example of how to overcome those barriers. The first barrier is complacency silos. It means that we are stuck somewhere in boxes, and it feels like business is still good enough. That's the biggest enemy of any change, that we don't feel this is urgent. And it is something that is a complex issue that each department can't necessarily do something about alone. So what we need is a coalition to really move forward together and energize ourselves together. And here's an example. Rosa is here. There you go. Where we've gone beyond even one company. Because even a company can be a silo. This is a project we did with Singapore government to help people with disability improve quality of life. And there are a lot of stakeholders in that gap between social care and healthcare that are involved in catering for those people. Work shelters, different institutions, different entities, different parts of the government. And by bringing them together, creating empathy documentaries where we could follow the lives of those people and really understand what it feels like to be in their situation, and come together as a coalition to really address these challenges jointly and see that together we believe we want to do something, and together we can do something. And it's been phenomenal to see. We've done a lot of workshops with 80 people, 100 people, using design tools to really shape together what improvement solutions could look like, that none of these silos could have done alone. And to see the impact of those changes, things that would have otherwise never been possible, unlocked, is pretty powerful. So getting employees from these different silos together to feel what it's about and have the tools that we have to help them imagine better solutions and then go after it jointly is very powerful. The second barrier is human resources. I mean, think about it. We're calling this resources. Already the name is flawed. We're treating people like assets. It's a very industrial, utilitarian view. And we're disconnected from the real needs, and many organizations don't even know who really works there, what really matters to them. So we worked with one tech company that had a certain picture of the people that work there, and we spent a lot of time shadowing them. We actually audited their personality, did deep interviews to really understand what it is that they care about. And the company had no idea. One example, I mean, there were obviously many different things, but one that was profound is that there was a group of people that were introvert, and they did not function well in the lunch facilities that that company had. They had a normal canteen, was buzzing and loud, and there was a group of people that could not re-energize in that loud environment. They needed some quiet space at lunchtime. So they booked meeting rooms to be by themselves for a little bit, and they really suffered from it. And it was a group of people that creates a lot of value for that particular company. So it was like a dramatic impact achieved by changing the facilities and the services around lunch. The third barrier is probably the one that's, you know, in many service design projects, something that we meet, that there is a mindset that is somehow not quite holistic. We're thinking about jobs as something that you do. We're thinking about a career that you have. We're thinking about work and home being separate, even though we know that now people are working in transit and at home. So this is about understanding how work really happens and have a more holistic perspective and think a little bit more in terms of real life. So we worked with one bank on that, and in a bank, performance management is a big issue, and their focus was very much to improve the software and the system of how performance management is handled, because people found it hugely frustrating. They spent a lot of time filling in the performance management templates, and because it was so much, they didn't fill it in properly, so management wasted a lot of time reading stuff that they didn't really believe in, so there was time wasted and frustration created all around. And by going in with the more holistic perspective, really understanding this annual experience from these different dimensions, we were able to uncover sort of more root cause changes in the way that feedback was done, in the way that trust was built, in the way people were coached. And then, of course, you can have a cool digital system to support it all, but you need to kind of step out and really understand what life is like and how you can improve the quality of that collaboration and that super important feedback mechanism. And the last barrier is one that is true both on an individual level, but also on a company level. There are fantastic efforts. I've seen HR departments working with design and mapping journeys and having personas of their employees, and then nothing happens because they do it within HR and don't really connect ownership back to the line organization. And you have also a lack of focus very easily that in this sort of complex environment, if there is no clear vision and no measurement and not an end-to-end approach, it's very easy for things to get stuck. And often you meet organizations that say, we've tried this, it didn't work. Where I ask, what did you learn from it? Oh, we don't know. So it's really important to have an ongoing, growing, learning mindset with individuals, with teams, and with the whole organization. And Spotify is a super interesting example for that. I mean, Spotify is used for many good examples, but this is about their way of learning. They have a team that's called Greenhouse, and the first thing that is really interesting about this is that they give the ownership to the person. So they don't have a team that makes learning, but they say, you're responsible for learning. We will create the environment to help you. You can create a community of other people that want to learn the same thing. You can share with each other. And as you know, it's quite thrilling when you teach somebody else how much you can actually learn yourself. So they created an environment around that, giving the ownership to people and letting everybody grow, multiplying that, scaling that. And it's really fascinating to see what results they've achieved with that in quite short time. But to me, what is cool is that they go from a fixed place of mind to a very fluid organization, and people keep evolving, keep growing, and it's spreading a lot of energy. So to bring together these four shifts that I would like to see more is going from silos to a coalition where we come together and we really create the buy-in and the vision and the joint purpose to make this journey work. We moved from thinking about resources to understanding what matters to employees and delivering on human potential that we have in our organizations. We have a holistic perspective on employee experience and go from jobs to really thinking about life. Think about freelancers, think about alumni, just think bigger. And go from fixed to fluid and constantly learn and constantly grow. And as you might guess, this is something that we can all contribute with. But just to give you a story that touched me a lot, thinking about human potential. I don't know how many of you have seen Hugh Hare. He is a mountaineer, a rock climber, that had a very tragic accident with his group and basically froze his legs knee down and lost his limbs. And as you can imagine, as a rock climber, that is pretty difficult. So he lost his identity, he lost his way of walking, he lost everything that was dear to him in a way. And he didn't give up from that. He decided, I'm going to build myself new legs, And he started engineering, designing, inventing, trying different forms of limbs that he could have because he wasn't satisfied with what's out there. And he built the best artificial legs out there to a point where he started climbing again. Not only did he start climbing again, he actually outperformed his peers. And there were people saying, this is unfair. He's climbing with tech legs, and we're climbing with normal legs. So think about that. He has pushed himself beyond human performance. He's used technology to be a better human. And what is touching about it is that he didn't only do it for himself. He has helped hundreds of people walk again. And when you see those videos and you see the faces of people when they can feel their legs again and they can walk again, it's fantastic to see. And I believe we as a community can do the same for the future of work with service design. If you think about it, we have compassion in our mindset and in our tools. We have critical thinking. We have creativity. And imagine if all of us make it our mission now to go out of here and say we want to help organizations and companies to meet the future of work on the front foot. We want to be the community that helps society and companies to shape the future of work and use service design as the mindset, as the toolbox to really drive this and enable this and spread this and scale this. And then I would love us to really create the future that we want to work in and live in. Thank you very much.